going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. We have our instant reaction following the Vikings losing 20-17 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In a shocking fashion, Baker Mayfield came in the U.S. Bank Stadium week 1 to kick off the NFL season, and he ended up beating the Minnesota Vikings. I'll be diving into the full stats and all, and then also giving you guys some winners and some losers from today's game. But, guys, I think we need your help because this is something we've been doing on the channel for a while here, sub for dubs. And more than ever right now, we need your guys' help and just your guys' support. So if you guys want the Vikings to bounce back week 2 in Philly, Thursday night football, hit that subscribe button. Hopefully the Vikings will bounce back. The more subs we get, backed by science, the Vikings have a better chance to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly Thursday night in week 2 of the NFL season. But let's jump into it. The Vikings did end up losing 20-17 to the Baker Mayfield-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker had a solid game, but by no means did he throw the ball all over the lot. He was 21 of 34, just under 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. That was the big key of today's game. The Minnesota Vikings had 3 turnovers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not turn the ball over once. But even both run games really did not get going at all. I mean, Rachaad White for the Buccaneers, he only had 40 yards on today's game. Alexander Mattison for the Vikings really couldn't get anything going. 11 carries for 35 yards, and 18 for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson was still playing like 18. He had over 150 yards today. But the Buccaneers offense, they didn't do anything to the Vikings defense that was they took over the game. I mean, they only had 3.6 yards per play. I mean, look at the rushing stats. They had 33 carries for 73 yards, 2.2 yards per carry for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. So I thought the Vikings defense for most of the game looked really solid. I like the different looks that Brian Flores was giving them. Obviously, in the second half, they let that 10-minute drive to start the second half. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went out and got 7 and really put the Vikings on their heels for that entire second half of today's game. But the key stat right there, the turnovers. They had 0, and the time of possession was about split even. Kick it to the Vikings side of things. The Vikings, offensively, overall, they looked better than the Buccaneers, but it came down to those 3 turnovers, and all 3 of them were all on Kirk Cousins' shoulders. He had 2 fumbles and an interception today, but the Vikings in totality on the offensive side of the football, just under 375 yards. Again, no rushing game at all for either of the teams today. Vikings only ran for 2.4 yards per carry. Maybe they were missing Dalvin Cook just a little bit. But before we dive into the winners and losers from today's show, start off with some injury news. Garrett Bradbury left the game in the second quarter with a back injury. This was the same injury he was dealing with at the end of last season, so it kind of sucks to see him dealing with that. But hopefully he's going to be good week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Also, Christian Darrisaw, he left the game for a little bit, but he ended up returning. So besides that, the Vikings were pretty much healthy the entire night, or the entire afternoon, besides Garrett Bradbury obviously leaving with that back injury. But let's dive into it. Let's go over some winners and some losers from the week 1 matchup. The biggest loser is this guy right here, the Minnesota Vikings fans. Just a depressing loss, an absolute depressing loss. I've been saying this for, the longest, that I thought it was a big J journalism take that the Vikings were going to revert from the, going 11-0 in 1-score games. And I thought, everybody was saying, it's going to revert. It's going to come back to the mean. Well, they started off today. A 1-score game against the Buccaneers. Vikings end up losing it, going to 0-1 in 1-score games this season. But the biggest loser for me has to be Vikings fans. Just overall, just the mojo in the stadium. It was at an all-time low leaving there. Anytime you have Baker Mayfield coming in as a 5-point underdog and getting a win in your building, I feel like a loser today. But I'll ask you guys, who do you guys think was the biggest loser from today's game? You guys can go Vikings fans. Maybe you guys can even go a guy like Kirk Cousins, who we'll get into here in a second. But this is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, answer today's pinned comment of who was the biggest loser from today's game from Vikings versus the Buccaneers. The biggest winner for the Vikings is the jersey I'm wearing right now, and that was Justin Jefferson. He absolutely dominated the first half. He had 138 receiving yards in just the first half alone. I was a little disappointed in the Vikings that they went away from him a lot in the second half. He had 9 receptions for 150 yards. He's just one of those guys that always seems like he's open. And he had another great game. Really picking up from where he left off last season. He's unguardable. I think he's the best weapon in the NFL. Tight end, running back, receiver, one of those positions. If I had to choose one player on my football team, I would be going 18 in the purple and gold. But he had another good game. Again, I just wish the Vikings went back to him more in the second half. Kind of seemed like he was flushed out of the playbook a little bit. Obviously going to have to go back, watch the tape, and see what the Buccaneers were doing to take him away. But, hey, he went for over 130 yards in the first half, finished the game with only 150, a little concerning to me. But overall, he played really well. He always does. He's the best wide receiver in the league, and just happy that he's on this football team. But for me, I don't want to call him the biggest loser, but he was probably the biggest reason the Vikings lost this football game. And it was Kirk Cousins. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, like you're saying, like, oh, how could you possibly say, Kirk Cousins had a bad game? He was 33 of 44, 344 yards. It was the 3 turnovers, and specifically the 2 turnovers in the first half. The first turnover was a fumble in the red zone. Pulling guard Ed Ingram, Kirk Cousins was on his drop back, just knocked the ball out of his hands. Kirk has to be quicker with that. Then also the terrible interception he threw to KJ Osborne. The Vikings are driving into the first half. KJ's running a deep post, throws it about 2 or 3 yards behind KJ, right to the Buccaneers safety. Again, that was a chance where the Vikings for sure had 3 points on the board. They ended up walking away with 0, and it realistically should have been 7 points, where the Vikings should have been heading into halftime with a 17-10 lead. Instead, it was 10-10. Sloppy play out of Kirk Cousins. A little bit of it was the interior of the offensive line, really not giving him time to throw the ball too well today. But again, you just can't turn the ball over. Anytime the turnover battle is 3-0, it's going to be tough to win that football game. And Kirk, he definitely struggled today taking care of the football. But I got more winners and losers coming up for you guys in a second. But I do want to give a shout out to our proud sportsbook sponsor, BetUS. If you guys head to chatsports.com/bet, use that promo code right there, chat125, you guys will receive a 125% deposit bonus. What does that mean? You put $100 into your account, they'll give you $125 free to play with. You guys can bet on whatever you want. Maybe if you guys are feeling a little lucky, you guys can bet on the Vikings money line week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be a tough game following today's performance. But, hey, if you guys want to do it at BetUS, chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code chat125, and you guys will get your 125% deposit bonus. Another winner I had, another receiver, Jordan Addison, the first-round pick out of USC. He had the Vikings' first touchdown of the season. It was on a little deep post route. He got behind the opposing team's DB, and Kirk Cousins actually threw him a strike. But he had 61 yards and a touchdown in his Vikings debut. I thought he looked good. It came into today's game on the depth chart as wide receiver 4 on this unit. Ended up playing better than that. Ended up getting a lot of reps at the wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 spot. Really saw him all over the field. A lot in the slot as well when KJ Osborne was taking a break. But 4 receptions, 61 yards, had that 39-yard touchdown completion at the end of the first half. So he looked good, kind of living up to the hype that we had around him coming out of training camp, coming out of the draft, even going back to rookie mini camp. I mean, he's looked great all year long, all offseason long. He kind of lived up to that hype. The Vikings, I mean, they got their wide receivers of the future. They got Addison. They got Justin Jefferson. Those guys, they're good at football. They're going to get it done. But, Jordan Addison, definitely a big winner for me from today's game. But I'm going Justin Jefferson as my biggest winner from tonight, or from today's loss versus the Buccaneers. But I'll ask you guys, who is your biggest winner today? Try to find some positivity and obviously a extremely negative loss here. So who is your biggest winner from today's game? Let me know down in the comments section. Another loser I have, I hate kind of burying the coach on this one, but I will say it was Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, I'm going to have to go back and watch everything and really, dive into the tape and all this. But I just felt like too much in the second half. He just kept going to the vanilla play call. In the first half, he was aggressive on first down, a lot of play action, a lot of, motion behind the line of scrimmage and all this. Second half, it was the complete difference. It was a lot of first down runs where it just felt like it was Alexander Madison for 2 yards, Ty Chandler for 2 yards, or it was TJ Hawkinson in the flat for 2 yards. I mean, I swear, it was 3 straight drives in the second half where it was a check down to TJ Hawkinson, and it was a 3-yard loss. It just got very frustrating. I just felt like he got very vanilla in calling plays, and I just felt like he never had that kind of killer mentality during the game where, he said, hey, we're playing the Buccaneers. Let's assert our will a little bit. Kevin O'Connell never really had that. Very aggressive in the first half, not too aggressive in the second half. I thought he got very vanilla, very stale on offense. And hey, I mean, how does Justin Jefferson get 138 yards in the first half and end the game with 150? I just think that's inexcusable to me. But, we're going to have to go back, watch the tape and everything. But Kevin O'Connell, definitely a loser on today's, winners and losers list from week 1. But if you guys want any more injury updates that we get from the game around Garrett Bradbury, as his status is in question for Thursday's game against Philadelphia Eagles, make sure you guys give me a follow on Twitter at Pat Siep. So make sure to put the link for that in the comment section and the description of today's show. And as always, subscribe to the channel here, Vikings or at Vikings Today. Make sure you guys go down there, hit that subscribe button. We'll be live for the game Thursday night against the Eagles. Hopefully the Vikings can bounce back, but we'll see. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, Skol Vikes.